So this is LSAT PrepTest 151, Section 1, Passage 4 about plate tectonics. Why some subduction zones produce earthquakes and others don't. Difficulty is fairly low. If you understand one chain of reasoning, you're going to be fine on this one. Now, this is a gap filler passage, meaning the old theory has a hole, a group of scientists patches it, and that's the whole thing. The main point here is that standard plate tectonics can't explain why some zones with tons of subduction stay quiet. These scientists say it comes down to how the plates are moving relative to each other. Now, paragraph 1 you could read pretty quickly. It is the textbook version. Plates move, they collide, one slides under the other, pressure builds, earthquake. You've heard this before. And the passage assumes you've heard it before too. So you don't want to get bogged down memorizing the setup. But you don't want to drift off at the end of the paragraph either, because the last couple sentences are the whole reason the passage exists. The theory says intense subduction should mean earthquakes, except some zones with intense subduction are basically silent, and that contradiction is the fuel for everything that follows. If you skim past it, you're going to spend paragraphs 2 and 3 wondering what problem's actually being solved. Now, paragraph 2 is where you get your points. You want to slow way down here. The scientists draw a line between two kinds of collisions. The first kind is that the plates move toward each other, head on. In those collisions, the subduction zone basically stays put relative to the mantle below. The plate that gets pushed under slides down at a shallow angle. Think of it like you're sliding a card under a book on a table. There is lots of surface contact, lots of friction. That is your earthquake zone. The second kind is where you have both plates moving in the same direction, just one's faster. So it catches up and its front edge slides under the slower plate. Now the collision zone is traveling along with the plates. And because it's moving, the overtaking plate runs into serious resistance from the mantle underneath. And that resistance shoves it down steep, almost vertical. And steep means there is very little contact between the two plates. Little contact, little friction means few earthquakes. So here is what you gotta lock in. There is a 3-step chain. The direction the plates move determines the angle of descent. The angle determines how much surface contact there is. The contact determines how much friction you get. That is the whole explanation. And so if a question asks why quiet zones are quiet, you've got to have 3 steps, all of them. You don't want to jump straight to saying less friction. You've got to know why there is less friction. Now, the sandpaper comparison near the end of paragraph 2 is just making the head-on case more live and real. Imagine you've got 2 sheets of sandpaper pressed together, flat, maximum resistance. That is the shallow angle collision. It's a good image, but you don't want to overthink it. It's not adding any new idea. It's restating the one you already have. Then paragraph 3 is short, only a couple sentences, but you don't want to skip that one either because it flips the implication. The proposal doesn't just explain why some dangerous-looking zones are safe. It says some safe-looking zones might actually be dangerous. The passage uses the word innocuous, which just means harmless. And the old thinking here was simple. Low subduction, low risk. But this proposal says that's not enough information. You've also got to know the type of collision. A low subduction zone where plates move toward each other could still produce a serious earthquake. And that reversal is a gift to the people writing the questions here, expected to show up. Now, the question is, what is the author's stance? What's their opinion? What's their tone? There is no skepticism anywhere in this passage. They're not saying some critics argue or it remains to be seen. The author presents this proposal like it works. They treat it like a real answer to a real gap. The trap is picking a choice that says the author is cautious or undecided, but they're not. They're bought in on this. Now, here is the other common mistake. Students sometimes walk away thinking this passage is about plate tectonics in general, but it's not. It's about one specific question. Why do some subduction zones not produce earthquakes? And every paragraph serves to answer that question. If a choice pulls you toward a broader claim about how plate tectonics works overall, that is too broad. Now, before you go to the questions, you want to check yourself on 3 things. First, can you explain the difference between the 2 collision types without looking back at the passage? Second, can you walk through the chain from plate direction to angle to contact to friction? And third, do you know what the last paragraph warns about and why it follows from the proposal?